はい、上松信夫です。
My name is Nobuo Uematsu and I make music. My sister took me to one of their concerts, and that's when I was inspired by the sort of scale, everything that I felt from listening to the concert. And so that's how I got started, and ever since it's been me basically picking up all kinds of instruments and really trying them out for fun. I don't really have a musical background in terms of education or learning process or anything like that. So it's really all from within, and it's been all self-taught. The very first instrument that I ever played was the harmonica in elementary school. But by the time I knew that I had an interest in music, it was a guitar that was thrown in the corner at my grandparents' house.
Timpani.
If I were to start all over again and realize again that I have interest in music, then I think that's the first instrument that I just want to feel and touch and see where it goes and where it takes me. Because I didn't have a formal educational background in music, I didn't have any connections. And back then, when people were wanting to write music for any kind of entertainment outlet, it was professional composers. But video games at that time weren't sort of seen in the same way as TV or movies or any other entertainment form. So it was almost kind of on that edge where you didn't have to be professional enough to write and provide music for games. So I sort of like slid into that space of where I didn't have to have a professional career to be able to write music for games. That's definitely Square for me. Back when they only had about maybe 20 people, and it wasn't really even a proper company at that time. People were making games, and I had a friend who was working there part-time as a planner for a game that they were making at that time. So he gave me a call, and they said that they needed some music to implement into this game that they were working on. And one day I bumped into Hironobu Sakaguchi, who is the father of Final Fantasy series. And by the time I ran into him, they were becoming a more proper company. So he asked what I'm doing, and I told him I'm just creating music for the games you guys are working on right now. And so he was the one that pulled me into more of a bigger role, and that's how my involvement with Square really started. And what's funny about that is about a week before I bumped into Sakaguchi-san, I had visited a fortune teller, and she told me that next week something's going to happen that will change your entire life for the rest of your life. And so I did meet Sakaguchi-san. I had no resume, I had no really experienced background, and it did change my life forever. Right now I've been pretty busy with creating my own music, and so I have to honestly say I haven't had a lot of time to listen to other music. I've been collecting sealed Elton John albums for the last couple of years, from his very first album to over a dozen or maybe even more than that. Once I have that time, I will reserve it to listen from the very first album to all the way up until what I can collect. Just recently, I won some on eBay, 4 albums that were in sealed condition. And so I'm looking forward just to listen to all Elton John albums. For the Black Mages, it's rock music, but it's not that I always am playing that at home. I sort of set aside time for that before concerts or before shows. If I know that something's coming up, then I'll sort of get into the mood and play that. Right now I'm sort of taking lessons for using a jazz organ, sort of on the side as kind of a, my own enjoyment. And then I also have a quartet of recorders. So I formed a group for myself called the QUARTET, Uematsu Quartet. And so that's what I do sort of on the side for myself. Obviously, the music that I think I listened to for the majority of when I was younger and when I really got into music before I got maybe busy with creating music purely for work is what has influenced me the most. So starting with the Vienna Orchestra and Elton John pops music in the 70s, and moving forward, Pink Floyd and any progressive rock. Any of those genres I listen to a lot, so my roots sort of started there. But the recorder quartet that I just mentioned were playing a lot of the Renaissance type of music, and it has a grand sort of presence. There's some sort of a connection that I feel with that type of music as well. I don't think we'll go to the level where we'll release the album. That's a long shot. But for our little group, our quartet, we have this master that looks over us and guides us through. And he himself organizes and hosts a concert every year in Japan. So we've already been doing that for about 3-4 years now. And so after I return to Japan from here in a few weeks, that concert's happening. So we'll be performing there. I'm currently working on 2 projects that are video game related, and then I also have a solo project which is music and lyrics that I wrote, and it goes as far as when I was in junior high school. I'm sort of doing a retake on the music that I wrote back then, providing music and lyrics to an artist or a singer, and I've already had a few songs released on iTunes. I'm hoping that maybe that CD will come out next spring around March. The type of music that I'm writing is not something that's so in right now, or love songs or anything like that, but it might actually cater more to the children and that sort of audience. So it's music that everyone can listen to, but because it's music that I created when I was young too, it sort of caters to that audience. When I said 2 video game projects, that's not counting Final Fantasy XIV. I think you know that I'm working on creating music for Final Fantasy XIV. One of the other 2 is something that will be probably announced very soon. Right after I get back, I actually have an interview with Famitsu, so that'll be out very soon. And then the second one, probably later this fall, it'll be public that I'm working on the project. You think I can talk about the game at all? I'm not even a Square Enix person. It's really hard to just pick one. I think I have a connection with every Final Fantasy game that I've been able to work on, and it's just really, really difficult. I would just have to say Final Fantasy as a whole, I just adore, and it's just a part of me. I obviously never dreamed that it would be at this scale. No matter how many years later, counting from year 1 with myself, when I first started, it was just me providing music for a video game called Final Fantasy and the company Square putting out the game. Even to this day, myself touring with this concert, it's almost like a dream. Everywhere we go, we're welcomed by all the fans, and the crowds are fantastic. And so I feel very honored. I'm just very happy that we're being supported by so many fans around the world. It's to see fans that I don't know their names, their faces, I've never met them, but to be able to travel to so many different cities, but yet people recognize my music. Just to see them having a great time and having them seeing the music being played and being happy, that makes me happy. That's the best part of this tour. In most cases, after meeting with the director and some of the team members of the game, I get a sense of direction and their requests or certain ideal situation scenarios that they give me. Usually it's the main theme or the opening song that is usually asked to be done up front. So that's where I start. In some cases though, they just tell me to go run with it after I hear what this game is about and what the story is. So in that case though, it's very similar, where I feel most comfortable creating the main theme song first. And in fact, once that's complete, about 50% of my job is actually done. So it really sets the tone and it gives it the face and the image of the game and the music that I want to give the game. Composer's block, that's like all year long for me. There's no hiding that, but for me, I'm not an amateur at this point. I have to live off of my career as a composer. So obviously I always meet deadlines. I try to do my best for everyone that is involved and for any project that these gaming companies have given me. But when I say that I have composer's block all year long, usually when I get a project, you're motivated. So your level of motivation just goes up, up, up. And then you sort of hit a block where you get really tense and you're just kind of stressed and frustrated. And every morning or every day when I face my workplace or my table, I'm looking at it like, I have to do this today. So that continues. It's like a trial and error every single day. I'm gonna do it today, I'm gonna do it today. And then I kind of look back at myself as like, I'm so stressed, I can't do the work that I'm really trying to do. I have this vision, but it's not working right. And so I sort of have to do a reset. And then once I do that, then I feel better about, it's not that I have to do this every single day, I have to hit the right note, I have to hit the right thing every single day. And so I look back and look at all the material that I put together, and then it starts coming together for me. So I do have kind of a uphill battle and then a downhill battle, and then I come back up again. And that's when it works just fine. I don't have any kids, but I can imagine that every single piece of music is my little baby, my little child. Some kids grow up to be really intelligent, some kids are not so smart, but there's no denying that they're their own kids, so they're as cute as they can be. So in that sense, it's going to be very difficult for me to say there's a standout and that there's one kid that I really like. Out of all my children, it's probably Final Fantasy VII. Sephiroth. Maybe fans will agree too, to some extent, I don't know. But the reason why it was probably the most challenging is because the last boss in Final Fantasy VI was already challenging enough. I don't know if you guys will remember, but it's basically a boss that you have to beat 4 times. Every single time you thought you defeated the boss, then the other component would come up. So there was basically 4 components to writing the music, and every time you thought you defeated, the music had to change too. And I think in total length it's about 15 minutes worth of music. And so having gone through that challenge already in Final Fantasy VI, and then moving on to Final Fantasy VII, I knew I had to top that. And to top that to me was already a big deal. It was a huge challenge. And so it sort of became an experiment where I had this image of Sephiroth, who he is, the character, obviously the background and what's going on. And I had to sort of lay out in front of me all these little components that made up what I was envisioning for this song that I had to create. But I had to sort of move around the parts and shuffle them around to see what and where the components would work best. And there were probably about 20 or 30 of them. So it was almost like a puzzle or a maze where I had to put it together until I knew I had it right. So it was an experiment, but at the same time, it was probably the most challenging music that I had to create. And I could be wrong, but I think it was the first battle music that had chorus in the battle music. So on top of everything that I've already done, I had to put chorus in the music. So it was definitely the most challenging that I worked on. With the first Final Fantasy that I worked on, the music was done, the game was still being worked on, and I thought my job was done. I was looking forward to what I could work on next. And then last minute, before they pretty much completed the game, Sakaguchi-san came running into my office and said, I just need a piece of music just for right here. Can you just make it right here in front of me? And that piece is the intro piece. So that didn't take me even 10 minutes to do. Who would have thought that that's the one that is still being used? I never thought that it would be kept alive for all the series games to come after Final Fantasy. When I was a young boy, I said that I wanted to grow up and become a pro wrestler, but I've realized now it's not an easy job. It's pretty tough, so I can cross that out pretty much. Right now, because I like to ride bikes, I could probably be a good mailman. I would like to deliver mail every day and drop the mail in everyone's little mailbox and say hello and a few words here and there. So that's something that I would like to do. To me, it's just pure enjoyment. I just do it because I love to make music. Just seeing what sound comes out of which part and seeing them fall into place, that's what I love doing. I'm just having fun in what I do. The most important thing probably is to find some sort of form of basis that you want to put your music on top of. So not to be influenced by what's happening right now in the music world. It's harder for you to find that core for yourself when you're always persuaded by all kinds of music that are just in and hot at that moment. So it's okay to listen to music like that, but it's probably not a good thing to just think that, oh, because that's in, that's hot right now, that I need to make music in that genre or in that form or in that style. So that's something that you probably would not want to do so much.